I canceled my wedding because my fiancé almost got my dog killed. My golden retriever, Bailey, has a severe peanut allergy. I found out when he was 2 and ate a snack off the floor at a park. His throat closed up and I had to rush him to emergency. The vet said the next time could be fatal, so I became obsessive about it. No peanut products in the house. I'd check ingredient labels on every treat. If we went to someone's house, I'd ask them to put away anything with peanuts. My fiancé, but Julia, started getting annoyed about 6 months into our relationship. Do you have to make a whole announcement every time? She'd ask when I'd remind her parents about it at Sunday dinners. When my sister wanted to bring her homemade peanut butter fudge to Thanksgiving, I asked her not to. Julia pulled me aside. You're making everyone walk on eggshells. It's exhausting. He could die, Julia. I know, but you don't have to be so intense about it. Things got worse when we got engaged. When wedding planning meant constant social events where I had to mention Bailey's allergy. Julia's friends started making jokes. Is the dog going to have dietary restrictions on the wedding menu too? Her maid of honor, Qley, said it at the engagement party. Everyone laughed. I didn't. 2 weeks before the wedding, Julia had her bachelorette party at our apartment. I was supposed to go to my buddy Mark's place for the night. Before I left, I reminded Julia about Bailey. Yeah, just keep him in the bedroom once people start drinking. And remember, nothing with peanuts. I know. I've known for 3 years. I'm just making sure. You always are. I left feeling uneasy. At Mark's place, I couldn't focus on the game. Around 10 p.m., I texted Julia. How's Bailey doing? She replied, fine. At 11:30 p.m., I texted again. Did you put him in the bedroom? Not yet. He's being social. At 1 a.m. Can you check on him? Make sure nobody's feeding him anything. She didn't respond. I texted again. Nothing. I called. Voicemail. At 1:45 a.m., she finally called back. She was screaming and crying so hard I couldn't understand her. Something's wrong with Bailey. He's shaking. His face is huge. I don't know what's happening. Get him to the emergency vet on Miller Street right now. I met her there 20 minutes later. She was hysterical. Makeup ruined. Shaking. I don't know what happened. He was fine, and then he just collapsed. The vet said it was anaphylactic shock. Peanut exposure was severe. The bill was $4,000, but Bailey would survive. How did he get peanuts? I asked her in the waiting room. I don't know. Maybe someone brought something. There were snacks everywhere. It was so crowded. You were supposed to put him in the bedroom. I was going to, but you kept texting me and it was embarrassing. Qley asked if you always check up on me like that, so I just ignored it. No, I was watching him. I don't know how this happened, but her voice cracked on the last part. Something felt off. We brought Bailey home Sunday morning. He was weak and traumatized, but alive. Julia kept apologizing, bringing me coffee, offering to pay the vet bill. I feel terrible. I should have been more careful. Monday afternoon, I was working from home. Julia was at work. Her iPad was on the coffee table, and a notification popped up. A voice message from Qley sent Saturday night at 2:30 a.m. I shouldn't have listened, but something made me press play. It was Julia, drunk, crying. Qley, I did something really bad. Mike kept texting me all night asking about the stupid dog, and everyone saw, and they were all looking at me like I'm some kind of babysitter. And I just got so mad. There were peanut butter pretzels on the table from earlier, and I fed him a handful. I wanted Mike to stop being so paranoid about him. I thought nothing would happen, and I could finally prove the allergy thing is overblown. But then he started shaking, and I realized I really messed up. Don't tell anyone. Mike can't know I did it on purpose. I'll just say it was an accident. I listened to it 3 more times. Then I texted Julia. Come home now. She walked in 30 minutes later looking confused. What's wrong? I played the voice message on speaker. Her face went from confused to horrified to pale. Mike, oh wait, you fed him peanut butter pretzels because I embarrassed you by texting too much? I was drunk and mad. I wasn't thinking. You said you wanted to prove his allergy was overblown. I didn't actually think he'd get sick. I thought you were exaggerating. I told you about the park incident. I told you the vet said the next time could kill him. She was crying now. I made a horrible mistake. Please, I love you. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Everyone's coming. Get out. Now pack your stuff and leave. We're done. The sound of the door clicking shut echoed through the hallway. A finality that felt heavier than the 3 years of memories we had built in this apartment. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. Bailey was lying on his orthopedic bed in the corner, his breathing still a little raspy, eyes tracking my every move with that heartbreaking devotion only a dog has. He had no idea he had just been used as a pawn in a twisted game of who's right. I spent the next hour staring at the wall. The silence was suffocating. Every corner of this place was stained with her. The engagement photos on the mantel, the stack of RSVP cards on the desk, the white dress hanging in the back of the closet, a dress she would never wear now. I felt a surge of nausea. She hadn't just made a mistake. She had looked at a breathing creature that I loved and decided his life was worth less than her social standing for a single night. The notifications on my phone started a few hours later. Julia's mom. Mike, please call us. Julia is hysterical. She says there's been a misunderstanding. Mark. Hey man, Julia just called me crying. Did you really kick her out? Over the dog thing? I didn't answer. I couldn't. But how do you explain to people that the woman they thought was the one was capable of such calculated cruelty? They saw the accident. I saw the voice note. I saw the confession of a woman who was willing to poison a family member to spite her fiancé. I walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water and saw the bag of peanut butter pretzels sitting in the trash can. She hadn't even had the decency to hide the evidence well. I grabbed the trash bag, tied it tight, and took it straight to the dumpster outside. When I came back in, I started grabbing her things. It wasn't about being petty. I just couldn't breathe with her stuff around me. I threw her expensive skincare, her half-finished books, and her spare chargers into a cardboard box. My sister called. I picked up this time. Mike, I just heard from Julia's sister. Is it true? Is the wedding really off? It's off, Sarah. She fed him the pretzels on purpose. There was a long silence on the other end. And Sarah had been the one I argued with at Thanksgiving. She had seen the tension. On purpose? Mike, are you sure? I heard her voice, Sarah. She recorded a voice note to Qley. She wanted to prove I was being paranoid. She almost killed him to win an argument. Oh my God. Sarah whispered. I'm coming over. Don't do anything. Just wait for me. When Sarah arrived, she found me sitting on the floor with Bailey. I had his head in my lap, rubbing his ears. He was finally sleeping deeply. I know it feels like your world is ending. No, it feels like your world is ending. But imagine if you'd found this out after you were married. Imagine if you had kids with her. That thought had been haunting me. What if we had a child with a nut allergy? Would she have tested their limits too? Would she have ignored an EpiPen because she felt embarrassed at a birthday party? The realization that I didn't know the woman I was about to marry was terrifying. The next few days were a blur of logistics. I had to call the venue, the caterer, the florist. "I'm sorry, sir, the 14-day window for a full refund is passed," the venue coordinator told me. "We can only offer a 20% credit." "Keep it," I said. "Just cancel it." Money didn't matter. The $4,000 vet bill, the $15,000 lost on the wedding. It was a high price to pay for my freedom, but it was worth every cent. And Julia didn't stop. She sent emails, long, rambling apologies mixed with accusations. "You were always so controlling about that dog. You pushed me to the edge. I was just trying to help us be a normal couple again. Don't let one bad night ruin our lives." The gaslighting was masterful. She tried to make it my fault for being obsessive, as if my care for Bailey had forced her hand. I blocked her email. I blocked her number. I even had to block Qley, and who kept posting passive-aggressive stories on Instagram about men who choose animals over people. A week later, I was back at the vet for Bailey's follow-up. Dr. Aris looked at his vitals and nodded. "He's doing great, Mike. Heart rate is back to normal. Lungs are clear. You got him here just in time." "I almost didn't," I said, my voice cracking. Dr. Aris looked at me over his glasses. "I've seen a lot of accidents in this job, but the ones where people ignore clear warnings, those aren't accidents. You saved him. Remember that." I took Bailey to the park that afternoon. Not the one where he first got sick, but a big open field on the outskirts of town. I watched him sniff the grass, his golden fur glowing in the late afternoon sun. He looked so happy, so blissfully unaware of the drama that had unfolded. To him, I was just his person, and to me, he was a reminder of what loyalty actually looks like. I realized then that the grief I was feeling wasn't for Julia. It was for the person I thought she was. The woman who loved me, who cared about my fears, who would protect what I protected. That woman didn't exist. She was a character I had projected onto someone who was actually quite selfish. As we walked back to the car, I felt a strange sense of peace. My house was half empty, my bank account was drained, and I had to face a lot of awkward conversations with extended family over the next month. But as Bailey hopped into the back seat and let out a satisfied sigh, I knew I'd make it. I wasn't a babysitter or paranoid. I was a protector, and I had finally protected myself from a life of misery. The fallout wasn't just a clean break. It was a slow, agonizing demolition of the life I thought I was building. By Wednesday, the flowers started arriving. Not for the wedding, but sympathy bouquets from Julia's distant relatives who had been told I'd had a nervous breakdown and called everything off over a pet mishap. I threw them all in the dumpster, every single one. The hardest part was the silence of the apartment at 6 p.m., the time we usually started cooking dinner together. I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the empty spot where her espresso machine used to be. The countertop looked scarred, as a reminder of the frantic scrubbing I'd done to get the ghost of those peanut pretzels out of my home. Then my phone buzzed. It was a group chat invitation from Julia's father, Robert. He was a stern, old-school guy who I'd always respected. The chat included me, Julia, and both our parents. "Robert, Mike, this has gone far enough. Julia is at our house. She's a wreck. We've already paid for the rehearsal dinner. Whatever petty argument you two are having, you need to sit down and fix it like adults. A wedding isn't a game you quit when you're annoyed." My blood boiled. I looked at Bailey, who was finally back to his usual self, chasing a phantom squirrel in his sleep. I thought about the night in the ER, the smell of antiseptic, the sound of his struggling breath, and the way Julia had looked me in the eye and lied while I was terrified I'd have to bury my best friend. I didn't type a long paragraph, and I simply uploaded the audio file of the voice note, the raw, drunken confession of the woman they were defending. I watched the typing cob bubbles appear and disappear for 10 minutes. Nobody said a word. Finally, my own mother messaged me privately. "Mom, oh Mike, I had no idea. I'm so sorry." The group chat was deleted an hour later. No more flowers arrived, no more sympathy cards. Just a final short text from Robert. "I understand. We will handle the guest list on our side. Don't contact her." The next few days were spent purging the digital remnants of us. Deleting the shared photo albums was like watching my last 3 years dissolve in low-resolution fragments. Beach trips, Christmas mornings, the day we brought Bailey home together. I realized that in almost every photo of the three of us, Julia was looking at the camera, while I was looking at Bailey, and Bailey was looking at me. She had always been a spectator to our bond, never a participant. I spent the following weekend at Mark's place. He had stopped asking questions once I told him the truth. We sat on his porch, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was waiting for a bomb to go off. "You know," Mark said, cracking a beer, "Qley called me. She tried to get me to take her side. I said you were being emotionally abusive by withholding the wedding over a mistake. And what did you say?" I told her that if she thought feeding a lethal allergen to a pet to prove a point was just a mistake, she should probably stay away from anything with a heartbeat. She hasn't texted back. It felt good to know who my real friends were. The wedding crowd, the people who only cared about the party and the aesthetic, had drifted away with Julia. And the people who stayed were the ones who had helped me search for Bailey the one time he got out of the yard, the ones who checked the labels on the beer they brought over without me even asking. 2 months later, I was walking Bailey through a different park, one with plenty of space and very few people. The trauma of the ER visit had faded into a dull scar. I was leaner, having spent my wedding fund on a high-end mountain bike and some serious hiking gear for me and the dog. I saw a woman sitting on a bench, a golden retriever of her own sitting at her feet. For a split second, my heart jumped, thinking it was Julia. But as I got closer, I saw it wasn't her. The woman looked up and smiled as Bailey trotted over to say hello. "He's beautiful," she said, reaching out to let him sniff her hand. "Is he a golden?" "Yeah, that's Bailey. I'm Sarah. This is Cooper." She paused, her eyes shifting to the medical alert tag on Bailey's collar. "Oh, I have to be pretty careful." She didn't have to be pretty careful. She didn't laugh. She didn't make a joke about the wedding menu. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small sealed container. "Totally get it. Cooper has a sensitive stomach, so I only carry these grain-free salmon bites. Want to check a label? I make them myself." I looked at the container, then at her. She wasn't annoyed. She wasn't walking on eggshells. She just understood. "I'd like that," I said. As we walked together, the two dogs weaving between our legs, I realized that the world was full of people who wouldn't think I was intense for caring. There were people who valued life over their own ego. I wasn't starting over. I was just finally moving in the right direction. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to check over my shoulder to see if someone was trying to sabotage the path. The first anniversary of what would have been my wedding day passed with a quiet, unexpected unexpected grace. I had spent months dreading the date, expecting a wave of what-ifs or a crushing sense of loss. Instead, I woke up, fed Bailey his specialized hypoallergenic breakfast, and realized I hadn't thought about Julia's face in weeks. The silence in my apartment, once a source of anxiety, it was just me and the dog. Living a life was just me and the dog. Living a life that was finally, authentically ours. I was at a local coffee shop, one that I knew for a fact didn't serve open bowls of nuts, when I saw her. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was waiting for a cold brew when the bell above the door chimed. I didn't even look up at first, but then I heard that laugh. It was higher now, a bit forced, trailing off into a familiar, sharp cadence. I froze. Julia was standing by the pastry case with Qley. She looked exactly the same, though her hair was shorter and she was wearing a coat I didn't recognize. She hadn't seen me yet. I felt a momentary surge of the old adrenaline, the fight-or-flight response that had defined the last 6 months of our relationship. "I'm just saying," Qley was saying, her voice carrying across the small shop. "The new place is so much better. At least they don't have all those ridiculous rules." Julia nodded, but she looked tired. There was a hardness around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She looked like someone who was still trying to convince herself she was the victim. I had a choice. I could slip out the side door, or I could stay and get my coffee. I stayed. I realized I didn't owe her my discomfort anymore. As I stepped forward to the counter, our eyes met. The color drained from her face instantly. Qley stopped talking mid-sentence, her expression shifting from smug to defensive in a heartbeat. "Mike," Julia whispered. "Julia?" I nodded. My voice was calm. It wasn't cold, just distant, like I was talking to a stranger I'd met once a long time ago. "You look good," she said, her eyes flickering down to my hands, likely checking for the ring I'd long since returned to the jeweler. "I am good, thanks. I tried to call," she started, her voice getting that tremulous quality she used when she wanted sympathy. "A few months ago, I just wanted to say that I've been in therapy. I'm working on things." I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to fix her. I didn't feel the need to explain why working on things didn't change the fact that she had looked at my dog, my family, and seen a nuisance to be tested. "That's good, Julia. I hope it helps you," I said. "Excuse me, but that's my order." I grabbed my coffee and turned to leave. Qley stepped in my way, her arms crossed. "You know, you really destroyed her life, Mike. Over a dog. I hope you're happy with your choice." I looked at Qley, then back at Julia, who was looking at the floor. "I didn't choose the dog over her, Qley," I said quietly. "I chose the truth over a lie. I chose to be with someone who doesn't think my feelings are an exhausting inconvenience. And yeah, I'm very happy." I walked out the door and didn't look back. The bell chimed behind me, a clear, ringing sound that felt like a period at the end of a very long, very dark sentence. When I got to the car, Bailey was waiting in the back seat, his nose pressed against the glass. He let out a muffled woof of excitement, his entire body wiggling with the sheer joy of seeing me again, even though I'd only been gone 5 minutes. I climbed in, handed him a safe, salmon-based treat, and started the engine. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Sarah, hey, Cooper and I are headed to the trailhead at the creek. Want to join? I checked the park report. No oak or nut-bearing trees near the path today." I smiled, typed back a quick, "We're on our way," and pulled out into the sunshine. I had lost a wedding, a fiancé, and a small fortune, but as I looked at Bailey in the rearview mirror, his ears flapping in the breeze, and I knew I had gained everything that actually mattered. I was no longer guarding my life. I was finally living it.